Well, greetings, Camille. I'm so happy to have you here.
And I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
You are so welcome. So, everyone knows my name is Kelly Joy. I am the CEO and founder of Sacred Waters Wellness Art Studio, and I am the host of In the Spotlight with Kelly Joy. And I'm so happy that you said yes to my invitation to come here to be featured. Now, I'm looking here at my notes for you, and I just got to do this right for Camille. So, for those who don't know, only one Camille. She's a globe trotter. She is a supplier of international merchandise, interior and exterior stylist. She is a professional organizer and a shifter of energy in your home, business, and yourself. She is a guru of traveling. The name of her company is the Chameleon Agency, Global Lifestyle, Global Perspective. She travels all around the world and she finds all these wonderful goods and accessories and things that just are so delicious to your eyes and you feel like you gotta have it all. I was just saying, what do you give a woman who has everything? She has some of the most beautiful knickknacks, artifacts, art, collections that she's created herself, and I'm honored to be a friend. I'm honored to just be in your presence. It's always been really good energy when we've done business together. It's been really great and fruitful for both of us. So we definitely have some good chemistry that we're going on. So I want you to introduce yourself.
Okay.
You can do it better than anybody. So tell us who you are and what you do, and then I have some more questions for you.
Okay. Well, Jeray has said it in a nutshell. I am the global guru of traveling. I've been gifted and took a journey for 15 years traveling abroad, working and traveling abroad. I left Atlanta in 2005, and prior to me leaving Atlanta, I was a celebrity wardrobe and prop stylist, and I implemented a lot of businesses in Atlanta. I worked in marketing, arts, and entertainment were my main source of work here in Atlanta. And I lived in Atlanta for 15 years and I left for 15 years. So that's a powerful number. I just recently launched my first photo exhibition on February the 22nd for my born day.
And it was awesome.
Thank you. Give thanks. Of 18 photos. Initially it was 15, but 3 of the photos got sold. So I still had them in the photo exhibition of my travels. It's called Global Sojourn, 15 years of journeying around the world. And that was something that I wanted to give back to the community. And it showed another entity of what I do. So I do many things, but that is a new entity that's being exposed to the people here in Atlanta and around the world.
Well, I was very impressed with it. And it wasn't so much a surprise, but it was very impressive to me.
Thank you.
I didn't expect anything but, quality from you.
Thank you.
You definitely have a strong sense of fashion and style. And when you show up into a room, you light it up. You are like a ray of sunshine, and I mean that. But as far as style, I mean just today is a casual day, and I'm like super casual. And I said, well, Miss Camille, she's gonna probably have lots of colors and fans, and
I have down times.
But you are, I mean, even with just your casual self. The moccasins, the jewelry, the accents, the earrings. I mean, you just pop. You have it going on.
And they're all handmade global goods that I've received from traveling that I sell at my global pop-up as well.
Okay, so we're going to get to the pop-up, but let's go back, 15 years ago, or a little bit further back. You were here in Atlanta. You're not from Atlanta originally, so where are you originally from?
I was born in Ohio.
Okay.
I grew up in Florida.
Okay.
But I think my spirit is really universal, because when I tell people, oh, I'm from Ohio, I'm from Florida, they're like, no, you're not. You're from New York. I'm like, no, I'm not.
Right.
But I think I always had that inner spirit. I was always different as a child. I was very innovative. I always had a diverse amount of friends. The person that I am now is the same person I am when I was a child. You know, I might have got a little wiser, but creative, you know, flow, talkative, always into something, you know, that was me from day one. You know, people that know me for a very long time can honestly say that.
Okay. So, you're not an Atlanta native, but you seem to know so many people here in the Atlanta area, especially those in the arts. And you were working in the entertainment industry. Can you share a little bit about how did you get started in the entertainment industry? And then you are coined as a celebrity stylist. Can you share a little bit about some of the celebrities that you work with?
Okay. Wow, how did I get started? I don't even remember how I got started. But back then, there was a team of people, core people that worked together, and one of them was Shannon McCullum. He was a photographer. I worked with a lot of makeup artists, but I worked with the National Black Arts Festival in the art industry. I opened up a clothing store that's known in in New York, Mashoud. I brought Mashoud to Atlanta.
Okay.
I did a lot of independent projects in Atlanta. As I said, being a celebrity wardrobe stylist, I worked with a lot of the record labels like LaFace Records, So Def, Columbia, and my name just grew. Okay. I can't remember how I actually got started. I think I even worked with Bell Ethnic. I worked with so many people that when I'm going through some of my old memories and photos, and I keep everything. So, you know, some of my passes, I worked with the Essence Music Festival years ago. It jogged my memory. I think I even worked with Tyler Perry when he used to have, I call it the Chitlin Circuits. He used to do the plays. Right. So I worked with him years ago as a wardrobe stylist. But that allowed me to have the freedom to really create. Back then it was mainly videos, and I did some work on tours with artists like Usher, Indy Irie. I worked with a lot of different people collectively and individually. Okay. And then that kind of paved the way, you know, so it went from doing photo shoots to videos to being on tour with artists to being a personal shopper. So it just kind of grew as one thing, you know, led to another. But I always was active in the community. I always was creative in the community as well. So the National Black Arts Festival paved another way for me to work with artists, because I did so much with the National Black Arts Festival. Unfortunately, they're not as full-fledged as they were back then, but I've been gone for 15 years. So a lot of the things that I've done in the beginning of people's careers have now blossomed, and I was part of those beginning processes.
And things have changed so much in those spaces. Like the way you work now, it may be different for someone who wants to do, you know, what you're doing, but you got an early start and a very rich history. So one thing that I do want you to share with people is about your pop-up shop. Tell us, you know, about that, because people are going to see your images, and you know, they're going to hear about all this great fashion and style. But if someone wants to work with only one Camille, tell us about the pop-ups and how someone would be able to work with you.
Well, my pop-up started from me in my travels. So I always had a love for fashion, the arts, and entertainment. Nothing changed from me living outside of the country as well. So when I would return back to the U.S., I would have trunk shows. And the trunk shows would be of people's products, handmade goods, or items that I purchased in that country that I was living in. And then every country I would live in, I would bring back and put the remaining objects in a warehouse. And then that warehouse grew within 15 years. So how it all started is I was living in one, if I would live in one country, I would always, I guess I would say, introduce myself to the community with the local vendors. I would go and see what people are doing in the community. I never lived with the expats. I always lived in a communal environment, so I can be embedded in their culture, their food, their language. And as that continued and grew, I started buying products of the local vendors.
Okay.
And I would help them freely to help market their products better, to help, take maybe their products wasn't as detailed as I would have liked. So I would give them free advice or marketing aspects on that. I would teach their children free English. So I developed a relationship with them.
Okay.
And that's how I started getting so many goods, because I believed in them, I helped them, and then once they got the products to a point that I was comfortable, I would buy it in bulk, and then I would come to the US and sell their stories as well.
Okay.
So it all really started just from a love for arts. It wasn't like I decided, I'm going to go over to Indonesia and buy up a whole bunch of goods from a wholesaler.
Right.
I bought it from the people that actually made the goods.
The people who handcraft themselves, the artisans.
Right. So then I could tell the story, because everything is about a story. Everything is about how you travel, where you go, who you touch, who touches you. And that's really how that began. So by me being in the US currently now, I have a pop-up that I do twice a month. In a private location, and you can find that out by following me on Instagram, which is only ONLYONE Camille CAMILLE, or Only One Travels. So both of them are my Instagram and my Facebook.
Okay.
And so Only One ONE Camille and Only One Travels are the ways to find out when I have my pop-up shops, or if I've been somewhere in the local area of Atlanta or in some other state.
Okay.
But that's, and I only have one of a kind, so I don't have a multitude of the same thing. Once that item is gone, it's done. I'm not going to get any more.
Right.
But I have things that range from crystals, like you have, from different areas of the countries that I've lived in. I have handmade purses. I have clothing. I have vintage items. I have leather bags. I have rugs. Puffs. It's a lot. It's a store. It's a boutique.
Yeah, and it's really amazing, the variety of things that you offer. But I do love that you pour yourself into the community of the people who are creating these items, the artists themselves. And sometimes, it's basically their means of livelihood. That's all they do. They hand make beautiful things, and so you get to meet them in person, and I like the fact that you're not going over there and let me just buy all this up for cheap, but you're actually,
and it's not even really about that. It's about that I'm providing means for people, their livelihood, because sometimes they don't sell, and I've probably bought enough for them to be satisfied for a whole month.
Wow.
And they're very grateful and they're very appreciative. And I like to hear their stories. Like I have a purse that I believe was handmade in Malaysia, and there's these little ladies that make them, and they cut these strips of leather, and there's like just maybe like I don't know, like maybe foot or something, or more than that, and they cut individually each leather piece, and then they weave them into like in a pattern of kind of crisscross, and then they create this bag. But you need to see it from the very beginning. It's so detailed. It's like wow.
It's like magic.
So I could nothing but support them.
Right.
They put all that hard work into it.
And then you're teaching their children English, which is such a beautiful opportunity and experience for them. So I think that's great.
For free.
And now I have a whole, new look. I mean, I already know you have really nice things, and I'll say sometimes, I can always get something, nice because Camille has these great items. But just knowing that, there's so much more involved in the connection and the engagement that you have with the people, it just, brings the value of that up more. So it's worth having, something that's not just sitting to the side collecting dust. It's a real piece of a culture,
and it's a story behind it.
Right. So I love that.
And it's not just clothing goods or jewelry, it's decor.
Right.
You know, it's a lifestyle. It's global lifestyle. That's basically what it is. It's a lifestyle of different items that I've purchased, I believed in, I endorse. Of not everything is handmade. Majority of it is handmade. Of course, the crystals are not handmade, but they're originally from that region where I was living or where I've traveled.
Native to that area.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, as we're talking, your photo exhibit, you know, that is something amazing. And when I saw it, I thought, oh my gosh, this is such a gift. It's a gift, you know, for her, for you, but it's also a gift for people who are able to see it and then get a chance to hear the stories, and then you have a visual, you know, that goes along with it. But what I know a lot of people are always curious about someone like yourself is the fact that you've been able to travel, and traveling is not cheap, but it's not always, you know, so expensive. We spend a lot of money on, you know, miscellaneous things, and before you know it, these things have accumulated to a round trip ticket out of the country. So one thing that I know people would like to know is, what did you do to, you know, create this lifestyle for you so that you can travel? What was your means of employment? And this is good. I like I like this.
Okay.
There's so many different things that you've done. So
one thing I want to share is today when I was drinking my tea, there was a message, and I think the message is so appropriate for today. It says, to live a life untamed and unafraid is the gift that I have been given. And so my journey begins. That's me in a cup of tea.
yes.
So, I mean, really, to be honest with you, I'm in the process of writing a story. There's a couple of layer of things that has happened in my 15-year journey. And one of them is I photographed or exposed another hobby that I like. And it really all stemmed from a gentleman named Shannon McCullum, who's a good friend of mine, who's a photographer. I used to go with him on his shoots as a wardrobe stylist. And then I was always interested. I always had a good eye for fashion, but not really per se under the camera. But watching him, asking questions, seeing things, and being very detailed, it started to be something of interest that I enjoyed.
Okay.
And so the photography was always something that I had, but I never really developed it until I started traveling. So I left in 2005 in Atlanta. And like I said, I was working as a wardrobe stylist and a prop stylist. I gave all that up because I had something that was like a burning sensation in my soul that I knew I was like, there's so much more than just Atlanta. I have to explore. And that's what I did. I didn't have a job before I left. I lied and said to my parents that I had a job. I didn't have a job. The only thing that I knew that I was going to do is that I was going to move to South Africa. I had a friend that was living in South Africa. She invited me to go, and I thought that was my blessing in disguise, or my way of deciding, oh, let me leave Atlanta. And I gave up everything. I made that journey, and I would say that South Africa probably was not the top of my list of where I would have traveled first, but it was such an important part of my journey that when I do complete the book, you will be like, oh my gosh, you know. So there was a lot that I learned and I endured that I would not wish on anyone to experience what I did in South Africa.
Okay.
So, but what got me traveling in the first place was that desire to want to do something different and to explore. And that's what I did. And then one situation learned to another situation, went to another situation, and that just continued. But initially I didn't have a job when I left in 2005. Okay. I saved up money.
Let's just have some clarity here. You did save up money, but you said you
not a lot.
Gave up everything. And someone's listening and they're thinking, I want to do this. Someone, you know, young, and maybe, you know, they don't have the experience that you have, obviously, if I'm speaking of a young mind that may be listening and they're inspired. You know, did you have a home here? Did you when you say you gave up everything, did you have
Everything.
It
So I
was just
had a
yourself.
car, I had a home, and then I had my personal possessions. I had I sold my car. I think I had 2 cars at the time. I sold a car. I got rid of any type of property that I had when I was here, and I regret that. But it's a lesson learned. And then I had an estate sale where I sold majority of my bigger items, like my furniture, my beds, and all that.
Okay.
And I probably would have downsized even more, but I end up having 2 storage units, the ones that the pods where they drop them in front of your house. Yeah, I regret not releasing as much as I did, but I think it was a point where I was getting overwhelmed because I had been in Atlanta for 15 years and it was so much memories and so many things. And then I ended up putting those in storage and then just leaving.
Okay.
But I did ship a lot when I went over there, way too much. So I have traveled heavy in the beginning, and then as I continue to travel, I learned to travel lighter, but not as light as I would have liked to. But I didn't have a lot of money when I left. I didn't even have a job. I just had a place where I was going to stay, and I let spirit guide me the rest of the way. Okay. I ended up getting a job in South Africa. I ended up running into a lady. This is an interesting story. I spent some time in Israel for about 6 months, I think, 6 months. And in that time that I was in Israel with the Hebrew Israelites, I met a young lady, an elder there, and she embraced me and we became friends. And I was in South Africa, not knowing but one person in South Africa. And I went to church. I don't even remember the name of the church, and she was there speaking.
Okay.
But I missed her sermon, that I only saw half of the sermon at the end. When I walked in, at the time I would speak Hebrew and I called her Doda, which means auntie. And she remembered me and she embraced me and said, what are you doing here? And I explained everything to her. She's like, let's meet. So we met the next day and she had a project for me. And I ran a demolition. The best way to say it is that it was an old hotel that we recreated for the World Cup. So I ran a demolition of 75 African men from the diaspora, various countries. That was the most difficult job I ever had in my whole life. And we did a reconstruction